All right, it is time for E3. Just booked my flight to LA, and now I'm getting in. And where is everybody? Welcome to Triple Click, where we bring the games to you. This week, we are talking about all things E3 2021, from rumors to expectations to hopes to Breath of the Wild to let's see. I'm Jason Schreier.
I'm Kirk Hamilton.
And I'm Maddy Myers.
Hello, we are back for another episode. Hello,
it's
my
us.
We
friends.
are.
It's the three of us.
You two will not believe what I have in store for you today, and that is
Oh boy.
a weather update.
Whoa.
So it's been like, I think we're seeing the world end here in New York, because for the past 2 days, maybe 3 days even, every single time it is 4 p.m., suddenly the sky darkens and there's like a 10-minute thunderstorm, and then things go back to normal. It has been so strange.
You know what's funny is, you know where the weather is just like that, especially in the summertime, is in South Florida, in Miami. You could almost set your clock by the afternoon rain that would happen every single day. So it's like New York is slowly turning tropical.
Ooh,
yeah,
not a good sign.
Not a good sign for
No,
our
probably
world.
not. No.
No.
But yeah, that's my weather update. It's also boiling hot here, which has been miserable. But hey, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, we turned off our ACs for this one, folks.
One thing you can do to stay out of the summer heat, or at least escape from the summer heat, is subscribe to Maximum Fun. Become a Maximum Fun member, because you'll get a bunch of Triple Click bonus episodes of our show, and therefore you'll have more distractions from the miserable weather around you.
Or because they're really cool bonus episodes.
There
That's
you
where
go.
I thought you were going to
That's
go.
good too. I was wondering where you were
Exactly.
going with that. Both of those work though.
Cool beans, if you will.
They are cool beans. It's true.
Yeah, of course, Triple Click is entirely listener supported, and we appreciate the support of everybody who is a Max Fun member. And we like to give y'all free content. Well, extra content as a
It's
a
not
bonus
free.
for
This
joining us.
episode's
Not free
free.
content. This is free. The show is free, but the bonus content is not. So thank you all for joining. Just a reminder: if you want to join, go to maximumfun.org/join, and you can become a member today. Sign up at any level. We appreciate anyone's support, and you will get not only a giant library of bonus episodes, but also you will have access to this month's bonus episode, which is Final Fantasy VI, the Beans Cast. Finally, we will be talking about the entire game. You two have been on a journey finishing this game, and we will.
It's true. I've been playing it.
It is. It's a real journey. This game's the saga. I'm excited
It is
to
a
talk
saga.
about it.
What was your comparison the other day, Kirk? The Avengers. It's the second half of the game is like the Avengers.
It's like every single Avengers movie, and then Infinity War, and now we're playing through Endgame.
right. The second half
all
is
in this
Endgame.
one game.
Exactly.
So cool. So many portals. So dramatic.
Anyway, let's get to it. It is time for Video Game Christmas. E3 is almost here. This is kind of a strange year because it's virtual, it's digital only, so not quite the same as normal E3, which we'll talk about some of the differences in a bit. But hey, first of all, it's E3 time. Let's get excited, shall we? This week, we will be doing our Triple Click E3 preview. We'll talk about what we expect to see, what we hope to see, and some of the little rumors that we've been hearing. We'll talk about all of it. We'll go through everything. But first of all, I want to open the floor to everybody here for each of us to name one thing that we want to see most at this year's E3. Kirk, why don't you start?
I've definitely become a person who gets very excited about Nintendo in general. So I want to just see cool things from Nintendo, like just something new, maybe. Like we'll see things that leak out, about whatever Marvel XCOM, these games from 2K and from other major publishers. And they'll be like, okay, that sounds cool. I can usually kind of imagine it. Like I can picture the trailer in my head. I'm like, all right. I feel like there's always one or two things, though, that Nintendo shows that just they're smaller, they're weirder, they're just not things I would have thought to expect. Or they're like old Nintendo franchises that I'm not that familiar with, that they're bringing back or re-releasing or something. So I'm excited for Nintendo. I'm excited for them to just announce a few new things for the Switch. So I would say that.
Just something new at Nintendo. Not Breath of the Wild 2. Something totally new.
Well, but that's actually, I mean, of course I'm excited for that game, but I'm kind of treating that a little more as an inevitability, and it feels a little more in line with those other games where I can imagine, I'm sure that game is going to be amazing, but like I can kind of imagine that. I want the thing that's more surprising.
You want a surprise.
Or unexpected.
I got it. Maddie, what's you? I think I can guess.
You can.
Metroid.
I just want any Metroid news. At this
Anything.
point, I feel like it's been a while. I don't care if it's Metroid Prime 4 news. I don't expect that anymore. Maybe that game won't ever come out. That's fine. I wish everyone at RetroLug. I'm worried for them every day. I wake up and I worry. But I want that Metroid Prime trilogy re-release on Switch. Maybe a remaster, maybe just a re-release. I feel like that's a no-brainer. I don't understand why it's not here yet. I feel like that'd be really easy layup for people who are waiting for Metroid news, and that seems like a possible thing. But I would also just like any new Metroid video game. I'll take a remaster of Metroid Prime Pinball. Great video game. I don't care. I just think I've waited for a while and I deserve a new Metroid video game. That's my opinion.
I think when it comes down to it, that is the important consideration.
Yeah, I
Maddie
feel like
has been waiting for a
what
while.
I personally deserve is what really matters here. Like, it's been a long year. I'm not that excited about the release slate coming up. I just feel like I need something to look forward to personally. And I think it should be a Metroid video game. That's what I want.
It's the 35th anniversary. They've got a reason.
Yes.
They should do it.
When I am doing my Charlie Day-esque like twine on the corkboard, that is one of the items on my corkboard is the fact that it is the 35th anniversary of the very first Metroid game later this year. And Nintendo likes anniversaries. Like, we just celebrated the year of Mario for the whatever beginning of this year, and that mattered to them. So I could see them caring.
But the difference is that Mario actually sells copies.
So can I, at the risk of going on a tangent here, suggest that I think it's interesting that the 35th anniversary would be seen as a noteworthy anniversary, because there's kind of like a tier ranking for anniversaries, right? Like 100th obviously is huge, though anything that's been around for 100 years, it's kind of like a whole different category of thing, because 100 years is a long time ago. 50th is big, 25th is big, I think just because it's like a quarter of 100 or a half of 50, even though it's a 5. People like zeros, so 10, 20. 30th I feel like is a little not as cool. 40th feels like a bigger deal. You know what I mean? Like these things, like 45th anniversary, not a big one. And 35th anniversary, I gotta say, like not in the top tier of anniversaries. So it's obviously better than like 32nd anniversary or something.
All right. Let's get back on track and not get into what anniversaries matter here.
I think we should talk more about anniversaries.
Let's rank the anniversaries. How good or bad are they? Do they matter? Also, I'm turning 35 this year, just like Samus. Did Kirk just say my birthday doesn't matter?
All right.
That's true. I think that was really just a subtle diss of you.
All right. Back on the rails. I'm steering this track back on the rails, just like Link in the Phantom Hourglass, or the Spirit Tracks.
Wow, deep cut. I like it.
That train around.
Video games.
My answer, by the way, is Final Fantasy 16, which I don't actually think will be at E3. I imagine that it's like going to be tied up into some Sony thing down the road, and Square Enix, when they announced their conference, didn't even mention Final Fantasy. So I doubt it'll be there, but that's the game that I want to see more of, more than anything. That's the trailer I've rewatched more times than anything else. As excited as I am for the Nintendo stuff, just like you two, Final Fantasy is my thing. Maddie, you and I have been, Kirk has been in his own little bubble, his own little music bubble, where he doesn't have to really think about E3 other than getting excited about it. While you and I have been in the thick of planning mode for E3, I wanted to, before we even get into like, what is Ubisoft going to show? What is Sony, what is Microsoft going to show? Whatever it is. I wanted to talk a little bit about the planning this year, because since this is such a strange year, I guess usually what we do in the lead up to E3, like what we did at Kotaku every year, is we reach out to all the big game publishers, hear about their plans a little bit. We set up appointments. We put together a big schedule that is like, okay, Maddy is going to this, and this.
In-person appointments at the show.
Yeah, in-person appointments at the LA Convention Center. I was usually in charge of like putting together the schedule at Kotaku, so I would try to make it so like everyone got to see the things they would be personally interested in, and there was a whole delicate balance to like hearing these things from companies. Sometimes companies would tell us, either hinted things or like tell us things, like hinted a genre of a game they hadn't announced yet. And this was all kind of with the understanding that we weren't going to be reporting this stuff, which is totally fair because it makes our lives easier to hear this stuff. So in exchange for you making my life easier for planning purposes, I will agree not to report on your game that you're hinting at, your new Tomb Raider or whatever that you're hinting at. Totally fine. Totally fair deal there. Because it's virtual this year, there's been none of that. There's been no, like, at least from what I've seen, there's been no demos, no playing of games. There's been no interviews. Usually we got interviews with like Nintendo developers who were flying out from Japan just for E3, or like Square Enix developers. There was always some cool stuff. It was always my highlight of E3 was like getting to talk to people that I didn't get to talk to. This year, there's none of that. I think I have a total of like 2 appointments for this year's E3, and other than that, my E3 is essentially the same as everybody else's, and then it's just watching the press conferences. Maddy, what has your E3 booking experience been like? I think you've done a little bit more, or gotten a few more appointments than I have, at least.
We have. I mean, I think when you asked me earlier today, I listed 5 appointments that we had on the docket and some maybes, which are some smaller things that wouldn't necessarily be appointments we would have taken at an in-person E3 unless somebody was really passionate about it. But I think the main difference is something that's already been happening over the course of the pandemic with in-person events, which is just that all video game preview coverage has had to move online, just in general. And all of these publishers have had to find ways to distribute or stream video game demos for reporters. That's just something that's been happening this whole time to varied success. Any reporter who's done one of these knows how crappy it is when you're trying to play like a competitive multiplayer online game, but like streamed over Discord or whatever, or that there's specific proprietary software that they use and hook up with you so that you can play it, but it's always terrible. And you're always like,
Parsec,
I'm just guesstimating. Parsec. Yeah, Parsec is one of them. And so that's awful. And then also sometimes they'll like stream a demo to you where you're watching somebody else play because that's the best they can do. And then you're like, okay, is my internet good enough that I'm really getting a good sense of what this actually looks like or not? And a lot of times they won't let you download a demo because they don't want you to leak it and they don't want you to betray anything before whatever embargo you're agreeing to. And E3 is the same way. But I think that part of why there aren't as many demos or preview events or like interviews associated with big announcements and demos is because these publishers have already gotten used to divvying that up throughout this past year. Like E3 didn't functionally exist last year. And so we are already in this weird post E3 zone where people are like, well, if it's a Zoom interview, that could just happen anytime.
Right.
And that is sad because what you just described, Jason, is this unique, really cool experience of in-person meetups and the spontaneity that can only happen with in-person that just can't be replicated this year. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I could go on and on because I feel like the other half of it is that more people can experience E3 this way, but they're not really experiencing E3 in the way that a reporter ordinarily would. So yeah, it's been interesting to see how different it's been this past year and also this E3 in particular.
I think that's interesting about the software that they use to let you stream the games because I've been wondering about that. Like I remember didn't Cyberpunk do a Stadia demo? They actually used Stadia's technology, but it sounds like not everyone. I would assume that would be a good use for Stadia, but it sounds like Stadia is not actually really being used in that way.
No, it's not. I think that Cyberpunk demo was also very limited. We were not offered that for whatever reason.
Yeah, I wasn't up for that either.
It just came to mind because I remembered it was Stadia.
No, yeah. I think you're right that like a cloud streaming option would be really good, and maybe in like 6 years we'll get there. But for now, it's just not quite it. I don't know. But there's also there's no comparison to an in-person interview. Just. That's the ideal. Or like running into somebody in a hotel bar and getting some dirt. Like those are the E3 experiences that you can't have in this format. It's just, that's lost.
Yeah, it's a big loss in 2 ways. And to your point, Maddy, one is that especially when you're talking to the Japanese developers, which I mean, I haven't actually done much on Zoom, and certainly haven't done in the past year on Zoom. But when you're doing it in person, it's a much different experience because you're sitting there in the same room as the translator who's kind of facilitating between you and the developer. You can see their facial reactions, you can see their expressions, you can kind of get more of a read on them, and you can ask questions that aren't like like don't feel as canned as you might have to if you were like waiting for it to get facilitated like on a call when like anyone could hang up at any time. Like it's just a much different experience. And then the other aspect of it, like you mentioned, like meeting people at bars or just like the experience of networking or really just hanging out with cool people and getting to see people that you don't get to see very often. It is a very good thing that more people might have access to this sort of thing that wouldn't be able to afford to fly out to LA and get a hotel and stuff like that. But you really do lose something, and it's very difficult for people in our positions, journalists, to meet new people and get to know people when you don't have anywhere to do it. It's not like you can just go to the Fig after virtual E3. Sadly,
yeah. Do you not feel like the E3 online avatar portal is exactly the same? Do you not feel like that's really good?
Could you imagine like, oh my God.
There's like a Second Life E3 where like we all log into that and
rule.
What's so funny is that
Yeah.
E3, so as we know, the ESA is not to be trusted. They leaked a bunch of people's personal information a couple of years ago. I'm imagining a situation where like they put together a networking event and like a journalist goes off with some game developer in the corner and the developer's like, oh, did you hear this thing? And E3 leaks it.
Yeah, like so all of it. Yeah, like all of the messages are part of whatever proprietary software that E3
all
leaks.
of the chats,
that would be
all of the
great.
Gets leaked. Amazing.
I feel like there's been, this just as an observer, there's been a really noticeable diffusion happening with E3. And of course, last year was really weird because it was so last minute and so many things changed. But this year it's felt still very diffuse to me, where a lot of the events that are happening are not E3 events. Like we're talking about E3 as though it is still the event that you described, Jason, where it's like in one conference center or convention center and everybody gets together and it's all kind of under this umbrella, even though there are always these sort of big brands sort of carving out their own space under that umbrella. They do stay in there. And then just over the years, we've sort of seen more and more. Microsoft does its own thing. Sony does its own thing. And it's like at the same weekend because they know everyone's in town, but it's not technically part of E3. When you remove the geographic connection, it's just like there are some streams happening more or less in the same period of time, but a lot of them have nothing to do with E3 at all, as far as I can tell. And like, for me, at least, as someone who is just sort of following along and being like, well, when am I going to find out about the stuff so I can talk about it with Maddy and Jason? It's been like hard to nail down what exactly is even happening and when.
It's been hard for us too, weirdly.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. There's also the Summer Game Fest. But so what you're describing, okay, so E3, it's helpful for an outside observer to think of E3 as happening in two parts. One part is the press conferences where all the game announcements happen. That's like what people generally think of as E3, all the exciting megatons and surprises and big trailers and reveals. But the second part is what happens after that. So usually that all ends by Tuesday, and then Tuesday to Thursday is when the show floor opens up and everybody can go and play games and do interviews and meet with people. And that's when, from an outsider's perspective, you'll start to see just like a constant flood of news as like journalists play games and write about them, and you get to read their previews, or journalists talk to developers and get scoops and post them on their websites, and you get to see like, this developer said his game will have 14 weapons instead of 17. Oh my God, it's a conspiracy. No, so that whole second
game
part.
News.
So that whole second part of E3 is just straight up not happening this year. There will be nothing like that. Like I said, I don't have any interviews booked. I don't know if you guys have any at Polygon, but like maybe we'll see developers talking to like Greg Miller on the E3 stream, but there's no opportunity for journalists to be like going out and playing games and meeting with people. So there's no like every year at E3, I love to talk about like, oh, I just found this cool indie game like in the corner of the show, and like this game is awesome. It's on my radar now, and none of that is going to happen. So from a customer perspective, from those of you out there listening who don't typically go to E3, the first part will be basically the same. You'll see the press conferences. There will be the announcements, probably a little muted because A, it's not live, so there's no crowd, but B, it's COVID, so a lot of games are delayed, and who knows if there's actually going to be all that many cool surprises. But the second half just won't happen, and it'll be interesting to see like what kind of impact E3 has as a result of that.
Yeah. probably kind of a sad one in terms of what we get to write about. I would say we do have some interviews booked, but they're identical to the way that we've run previews the rest of the year that I described, where there are Q&As available for upcoming games, and it'll be like, we're planning to debut this specific trailer at E3, so that's when this interview is embargoed for, is when the trailer drops.
Okay.
And here's some more details about the game that we're showing off, which is the type of interview you would get on the floor at E3. But the core difference there is that those interviews are happening over Zoom and could, in theory, happen literally any time. And the only thing it's timed to is when the trailer happens to drop. And it's not as naturalistic of a reason to have an interview as like an in-person one where you might also then be like, let's talk about some other stuff. And it's just, there aren't as many interviews as well. Like that's the other challenge that both Jason and I have been complaining about in GChat, where it took a very long time for it to be entirely clear what was happening at E3 at all. The schedule was very late in coming. And announcements
still not clear.
Very late in coming. So yeah, a lot of planning's kind of been thrown together this week, but we love that. We love that.
Short version.
So fun.
I cannot wait for this to get back to LA. Like I really hope there's an E3 next year and that it's back to normal, because I really want to go, and I missed it. I miss traveling, and I miss E3 like being in person.
So related to that, the idea of this getting back to normal, to me at least in a kind of a big picture way, this feels like an industry that was once physical and has become almost entirely digital, wrestling with the entire idea of what a trade show could be for it. Since if you go back to the origins of any trade show, the whole idea of like a car trade show or like NAMM, like a music thing, it's to go and like see the new guitars or like play the new model, and they debut their new physical things. And video games used to be that way too. And that's what E3 was all about. And like, as video games have become entirely digital, which has been a kind of a recent development, just the last sort of couple generations, really the PS4, Xbox One generation was like when it really fully went digital. It's increasingly clear that like there's not as much for them to really show, and that the whole of E3 kind of doesn't need to exist anymore. As cool as it is to have everybody in that building, like, why are they there? And it's so expensive, and it's such a logistical headache. And all these people are realizing like, we can just show our game here and then just work on it and have this kind of a remove, which I know isn't entirely a positive thing for everybody. Yeah. But I could totally see more people just realizing that they want to keep this going.
But the other part of E3, Kirk, is the part where people are making business deals and retailers are looking at games.
But can't you make business deals anytime?
Sure, but I would argue that in a world where people are increasingly going more remote, and I imagine, we just saw Ubisoft sent an email to its employees this week saying we're going to support a hybrid model, and although they're only offering full-time remote work to like a small number of people, at the very least, people are going to be able to work from home a few days a week. And as that becomes more and more the case for many, many, many companies, having an annual excuse to all get together in person is even more important. Anyway, let's move on, because we have to get through a lot of stuff. Let's talk about some actual games and conferences and stuff. So let's go through a few of the big conferences and talk about what we hope to see, what we expect to see, maybe some rumors we've heard. Starting with Saturday, Ubisoft is the big one on Saturday. They will presumably not be addressing their culture of sexual misconduct, but we'll see if they do.
We don't expect to see that.
I'm sure they're going to get up and give a whole presentation about it.
Well, they did one thing last year where Eves actually did say something, or they put something on Twitter. I don't remember. But anyway, let's see.
They had like a statement.
They've said they've got Far Cry 6 there. They said they're going to talk about some Assassin's Creed Valhalla stuff, so it's safe to expect some DLC there. They have said they are, and then other like their live service games, and then presumably they'll have other surprises. But the big thing, I think, their big showcase is going to be Far Cry 6. Yeah, I'm not sure what else we're gonna see. I do know that Ubisoft has one thing that I was talking to someone I know at Ubisoft about a thing about. I was like, "Hey, have you heard about this game?" And they asked me so like nicely and genuinely to not talk about it publicly, this game, because they were like, we'd be so screwed, please don't report on this. So I'll do them the favor of not mentioning, not even hinting at this one thing I've heard about. But I don't expect to see like a new Assassin's Creed or anything like that. I think Valhalla is going to be the focus for a while. So I'm not sure how much other stuff we're going to see there. What do you guys want to see or expect to see Ubisoft.
I mean, this isn't what I want to see, but what I would expect to see is just something about one of their tactical shooters. Like they got to throw a Division or a Rainbow Six or something on the pile,
yeah, Rainbow
right?
Six. They just changed the name from Rainbow Six Quarantine to Rainbow Six Extraction because you're not going to
Why?
release the game.
Why would you do that? I can't
Because
imagine.
you really well, Kirk. Wait, Maddie, you just asked why sarcastically. Kirk just asked.
No,
genuinely.
we were both asking
We
completely
were both
sarcastically,
asking why
Jason.
sarcastically.
Oh,
There
okay.
was-
Kirk, you looked serious. I've got to say, Kirk,
Yes, I
you
was
looked
really,
serious.
I was mystified why someone would change the name of a game from Rainbow Six Quarantine.
It was good deadpan. Yes, they changed that name,
Very good
but that'll be
acting.
there also. I forgot to mention that. That'll be there too. So yes,
That
Rainbow
makes
Six,
sense.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six, formerly known as Quarantine, will be there.
Without an Assassin's Creed thing in the mix, I'll just kind of be like, blogging my blogs for that one and enjoying life.
Yeah, a lot of Ubisoft games that have been announced are in development hell right now. So Skull and Bones has been in development hell for a long time.
Yeah.
Just got yet another delay to like late 22
Yep.
and beyond. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is very much in development hell. I don't think.
I expect
Yeah, I
nothing
don't-
from that.
I don't think they've been public about it, but from what I hear, it's like very, very early still. Michel Ancel left the company. The
Yeah,
director of the
yeah.
game left the company, so that game is a mess. And then
Yeah.
Avatar, from what I've heard, that game can't like even be like part of they can't talk about it or reveal it or anything until they're allowed to, based on the movie marketing plan. And because the Avatar movies keep getting
Are never
delayed, that
coming out.
game
Yeah,
is
yeah,
also
yeah.
delayed. Yeah, how funny is that they're like,
Wow.
imagine working on a game where you're like tied to the schedule of this like ambitious
God.
James Cameron movie.
Of all the movies to be tied to, like that's the one you're tied to. I feel
Yeah.
like normally it would be fine. It'd be NBD, but yeah.
And then, Assassin's Creed is in an interesting place because they're really into like expanding Valhalla and adding more stuff to Valhalla. So that'll be a big thing for a while. I heard that they made some recent changes and they might put something else out in the next year or two. But from what I've heard, they're working on. There's one big Assassin's Creed in development that is like going to be really big and their goal is to like and I know we're all like, oh my god, we need shorter games, but from what I've heard, this game is going to be
I don't know, I mean,
probably bigger than others.
There's one thing that Valhalla needs, it's to be even bigger. I say
Yeah,
of the
man.
game that I'm still nowhere close to finishing despite playing like 60 hours.
yeah, I think they should add more dots in, like a different color
Probably.
dot, maybe,
Yeah.
like a bunch of different dots in there.
Yeah,
that'd
like
get me
some
back
new dot
in.
colors.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
be
yeah.
there for that.
And then there were rumors on the internet that I think I've heard similar things myself on about Ubisoft Sofia. You guys know the Ubisoft Sofia studio. I think they made Rogue, Assassin's Creed Rogue.
They did.
That they were working on something that was either canceled or morphed into DLC or something like that. So there's a lot of stuff is in flux there too. I think a lot of Ubisoft is just in flux, not just because of the cultural stuff, but because they've just been having so many development issues.
Yeah, they're in a weird
Yeah.
place. Like, I mean, like I'm not that psyched about Far Cry anymore. As a person who used to love Far Cry, it just is like, okay. I mean, I'll play it. They're always fun, but I'm a little like, this just is. I didn't even really watch the trailer or anything for the new one. It just kind of looks
Yeah.
like more Far Cry, which is fine. But that's kind of their thing now. Is they have a few of these franchises, and they're like, here's another one. It's more.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Ubisoft used to be a little more adventurous, or I like it when they are more adventurous, which they still can be.
Far Cry 6 comes out this fall. From what I've heard, if I remember correctly, they're aiming to go in a radically different direction for Far Cry after 6. So maybe there'll be something more along
So
the
look
lines
forward
of what
to
you wanna
that
see, Kirk.
later.
I don't know.
in your life.
This is all vague
point,
because I haven't
yeah.
heard any concrete details about it. And then they have the free to play stuff that they've talked about a little bit, how they're getting into that world. But anyway, let's move on. Microsoft is on Sunday. I'm skipping some of the smaller press conferences, by the way, like Gearbox. Like, okay, great, Gearbox is another Borderlands spinoff. Cool. Microsoft on Sunday. They will be interesting.
Halo Infinite release date? Who
Halo
knows?
Infinite. Probably release date. Yeah, we've got to see release date now.
I feel like if they don't put out a release date, we need to be concerned for
amazing.
them
that
emotionally.
would be so funny if
They're like
they
would
didn't
be.
put
Halo
out a
Infinite, and
release
it's
date.
like 2024. You're like, wow.
We're going to put it on the next Xbox, actually. We're just
gonna
going to
be
let
on
it bake for like 6 years. Honestly,
Right.
that would be fine with me. Yeah, whatever they want to do is fine.
Well, it's been a long time since the last Halo game, so
Yeah.
it's Yeah, I don't know.
Yes,
Make it good. Just make it good.
Yes, that'll definitely be there. I'm sure we'll see some of the other Microsoft Studio stuff, like Psychonauts 2 will definitely be there, and who knows what else they've got under their bazillion studios that they own now. One thing we'll definitely see is a lot of Bethesda stuff, because this is the first big press conferences since Microsoft bought Bethesda last year. So the thing I know will be there is Starfield. They've hinted at it. I've reported it. And that is one game we will be getting a release date for. And people, I think, will be surprised because it's a release date, a specific release date that is way far out. It's like late next year. I won't say that. I'll leave it to them to say the specific date, but it's way late next year, late 2022.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be so. Bethesda is happening during Microsoft.
Yes.
It's a joint press conference.
That is interesting since they used to do their own press conference. And that
I
always
know.
felt
Yeah.
a little bit like, I know that you're your own publisher, but did this really need to be its own press conference? So I'm fine with them being folded.
Yeah, well, some years they didn't have enough to
Yeah.
justify it, and some years they did. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they have some strong studios, obviously, Arcane. One thing that's interesting is that they're two next games. They're two games for this year, Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, which I think is for this year. I don't remember if they've delayed it out of this year, but those two games are both PlayStation exclusives. So who knows if those will actually be at the Microsoft press
Right, or like
conference.
timed exclusives, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Yes,
timed
they are.
exclusives for like a year. So we'll probably see new stuff, at least hints of new stuff, just because it feels like this is an opportunity for Microsoft to say, hey, we bought Bethesda. Here's what we've got going on. And it's all coming to Xbox Game Pass day one. Expect to hear Xbox Game Pass at least 400 times during that press conference. Is there stuff you guys are hoping to see from the Xbox plus Bethesda showcase?
You know, I always like Microsoft's showcase, or I've come to like them more and more just because you never know what you're going to get. Because they've become so sort of democratic in the way that they're just like everybody, and also they now own so many studios that it really
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of all the studios they've bought, and there are just some where I'm like, what's like Ninja Theory working on? What's X, Y, or Z working on? So there's just going to be probably a couple things where I'm like, ooh, look at that, that looks cool. Or a lot of indies tend to turn up at Microsoft.
Microsoft is where Elden Ring was announced 2 years ago at the Microsoft
Right.
E3
That's true. They
conference.
always have sort of those big third-party things that people get psyched about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it just for that reason.
Yeah, there could be stuff like that. It could be some third parties that come out of nowhere and surprise us. But who knows? I mean, I don't think that there's going to be some big, huge surprise announcement for fall of 2021. And that's something that people really need to keep in mind, is that COVID has just screwed everybody.
Yeah.
Moving on, Square Enix is also on Sunday. They've already said that their big presentation, their big focus is on a new game from Eidos Montreal. And when they said that, I saw a lot of people being like, oh my God, Deus Ex. To which I was like, sorry, guys, Deus Ex is not coming back. I wrote an article for Kotaku in 2017 about how Deus Ex was being put on ice, and Eidos Montreal was working on a Guardians of the Galaxy game, which of course will be the game that Square Enix showcases on Sunday. So that's the big thing that Square is going to show. They're also talking about Babylon's Fall and the Avengers. They'll do some DLC for that, I'm sure, and a few other things. Maybe some Final Fantasy stuff, but they haven't mentioned it. One thing I will say, I don't know if you guys saw this, but so on the App Store, Square has changed the names of the games Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 4 to Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 4 3D Remake, which made a lot of people wonder, what's the deal there? And my kind of theory there is that Square is preparing to release a compilation of all the 2D versions of those games. So like a Final Fantasy 1 through 6 2D compilation, which would be hilarious because you two have been playing Final Fantasy 6 and we've been talking about like how there's no
my
way to like
God.
play it well. So if they were to just release it now on the Switch or like announce it on Sunday on the Switch, like
I would just
FF1,
walk
FF6.
into the sea at that point, I think. I'd just be like, okay, goodbye.
Well, you
That's how
would
these
be-
things tend to go.
You would be Joker-fied and you would turn into
Yes.
Kefka and try to
yeah,
destroy
I
the world.
would. I
Yes.
would. Finally. There's 3 statues in my neighborhood that I've been eyeing.
But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is the big one. I was talking to someone who worked on that game recently, and they were telling me that at least as far as they know, at least when they worked on it, it was not a service game. So maybe it's not going to be like the Avengers clone that people have been worried about. And this is the people who made the recent Deus Ex games, which are both pretty good. I think there's reason to be optimistic. Anyway, what are you guys hoping for or looking forward to from that one?
It'll probably be a little bit more about that Life is Strange game that looked kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that's also there.
I'm not a huge
Colors.
Life is Strange super fan. I never played the second one, although I heard it was really good.
Yeah.
And that game seemed cool. It has a really cool Radiohead cover in the trailer last time that I downloaded afterward because I thought it was a cool cover. So yeah, I'm excited to like play that game eventually. I'm trying to remember other Square stuff. I think that's the main thing that I might actually play that comes out of that.
There's a rumor also about a Final Fantasy Souls game or Neo game, like the Neo maker is doing a Final Fantasy game.
Right.
Who knows if that'll be on Sunday, if it's real. I don't have any confirmation on that one. I just have heard the rumor.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm not super jazzed about Square Enix. There's just, I don't know. Their press conferences never really excite me.
You're not going to play the Wakanda raid in Marvel's Avengers? What?
Yeah, I'll just be curious to see how they're even messaging about the Avengers anymore. That game just makes me sad.
Yeah,
because it
I'm
just
curious about that too.
Doesn't exist. And the Guardians game, I guess we'll see. Like, when I hear about it, I just think, oh God, it'll just be like the Avengers and it's going to be a bummer. But maybe it'll be good because, like you said, Eidos Montreal, that studio anyways, I don't know if everybody there is still the people who made Deus Ex, but I really like those Deus Ex games. So I hope it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if it's single player. And again, I'm not 100% sure that.
Yeah, I can imagine plenty of versions of it that are.
Yeah, it could be cool. Okay, moving on to the one that we're all the most excited about, I think. Nintendo. On Tuesday morning, Nintendo is doing their Nintendo Direct. I think they haven't said what's coming. They've just said it's going to be mostly focused on 2021. I think we can all just kind of safely assume that Breath of the Wild 2 will be there, or else heads would roll. I expect something. My prediction for this one, this is not an inside info thing, so don't take this as a tease or anything, but my prediction is that they will celebrate. They will say, "Screw you, Kirk. We're celebrating the 35th anniversary of Zelda, and
the most important anniversary of all."
And they're gonna be like, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming in 2022, but to tide you over until then, we're releasing the Skyward Sword HD, which we know about, and then Twilight Princess and Wind Waker on the Switch, like that Wii U version port, and then also a remake of the Oracle games, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, in the style of the Link's Awakening remake. That's my prediction. That's my big
Those are pretty
Zelda
safe predictions, but those
wishful
would be
thinking.
cool.
Wishful thinking prediction. What do you guys hope to see or expect to see from Nintendo this year?
I mean, I already described it earlier in the show, but I just wanted to say if the Zelda thing happened, I wouldn't be mad about it. I mean, whose 35th anniversary truly matters? These are the things that people who work at Nintendo argue about every day, presumably, and that's all fine with me. I would certainly play Twilight Princess again. That's a cool video game. Midna's a neat character, so I'd be excited about that.
Yeah, me too. I never played Twilight Princess, and I didn't finish Wind Waker.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, there's definitely some Zelda gaps.
It's got a slow start, but it's cool.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It seems like a game that was ready to be reappreciated when it was re-released on Wii U.
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to be digging into a Zelda gap next month with Skyward Sword, which
That's
I think
another
I'm the only
too.
one who's played, right? Or you two have both played it?
Well, I
did
played the beginning of it.
Oh, you did?
But I did not
I played
beat
a
it.
pretty significant amount, but I mean, it's a huge game.
But
so
neither of you have finished it. I'm the only one who finished it.
Because it's like, isn't it like 60 hours long or something? It's like huge.
It's pretty hefty from what I remember. There are a lot of dungeons in that game. Kirk, do you have any like predictions or hopes or anything from that show?
No, I'd love to see some
surprises.
Some surprises, some just like unexpected little games or some indie things that are coming to Switch kind of soon. It's cool that they're focusing on this year. I'm fine with that. I don't need to like
helps
see
fill
more.
the gaps.
Especially if focusing on this year means that Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year, because that would make me very happy.
Yes.
That'd be wild.
And I guess I should ask the two of you, since you're more tapped in. It seems likely we are not going to hear about a new Switch at E3. Does that seem right? It doesn't seem to me as though those two things will happen at the same time. Like the new Switch would be.
It doesn't seem likely to me either.
Time.
And yet those rumors won't go away. I don't know. It's very odd. I feel like there's no room for that announcement based on what I know, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, they were very clear in saying that this was a software direct. It's a Nintendo Direct for software.
So maybe a little later.
The reporting from my colleague Takashi Mochizuki at Bloomberg was that they were planning that they could announce the Switch Pro ahead of E3 to allow partners and them to showcase games running on the Switch Pro without having to explain to people why the Switch game is such a high resolution.
Right, why it says 4K in the corner of the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it will, of course.
It doesn't necessarily. That's not necessarily the going to be the case. And I mean, clearly we're a few days away, and it hasn't happened yet. So we'll see what happens there. I wouldn't be shocked if the Switch Pro is announced a little bit later. Maybe it was moved. Maybe the announcement was moved. Who knows? But yeah, the Switch Pro is definitely a thing, and I'm sure we'll see some mysteriously good-looking games on the Switch.
That'll be a funny thing to keep an eye out for.
And
like how good do the games look, and do they look suspiciously good? That would be what we have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and I don't think I do not think that there have certainly been no rumors that there are going to be like Switch Pro exclusive games. So I don't think that this is the type of thing where like you have to announce the Switch Pro with the game. It's just that these games will look better on the Switch Pro. A couple more things before we move on. Take-Two will be there, Capcom will be there, Namco will be there. Take-Two, like you mentioned before, one of you mentioned before, there was a big 2K leak, Marvel XCOM and a couple other things. The Borderlands thing we know will be at E3. They've been teasing it at Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. But I don't know necessarily that Marvel XCOM or like any of the other things that were leaked will actually be at E3. I certainly haven't heard as much. That leak came from a very strange source, which was just some guy being like, hey, I heard about this on Reddit, and just accurately nailing all these things. But yeah, so I don't necessarily know that'll be at E3. Capcom and Namco are both doing their own little things. Capcom has said this will be great. Ace Attorney, which I'm sold already. Like that's all I want to see. And a couple other announced games. And Namco, I'm not sure, but they're the ones who are publishing Elden Ring, so maybe they will have something to say about that game. Maybe Tales of Arise and some of the other JRPGs that they
which
have.
is what people really want to see. It's just Tales.
Hey,
Tales
man,
stuff.
there's some. Don't knock on Tales. Any final E3 hopes or predictions before we take a break?
No, I'm just sort of looking forward to it. It's going to be low key for me, but I'm a fan of that.
So we'll be back next week to talk about what happened to
actual things.
Just wall-to-wall Metroid stuff next week.
Yep,
Can't wait for that.
Could you
Gonna
imagine?
be great. Gonna be hours
what if
going over
what
all
if that actually happens? What if there's like a bunch of Metroid stuff?
That would be
and you're
fantastic.
I'm wheeling it
buzzing?
into the universe as we speak.
Oh man. Okay, so why don't we take a break and we'll be back with one more thing.
From the internationally acclaimed creators of Who Shot Ya comes the movie podcast Maximum Film, starring producer and film festival programmer Drea Clark as a woman bound by passion.
I saw this 8 months ago on the festival circuit, and I loved it.
Film critic Alonso Duralde as a man corrupted by greed.
Why watch one Hallmark Christmas movie when I can watch 7?
And comedian Ife Wadiwe as a man protecting a love that society simply won't accept.
I think Pacific Rim is a perfect movie. And if you can't accept that, then I want you out of my life.
From the makers of the movie podcast Who Shot Ya comes Maximum Film.
That's right. We changed the name of our show to Maximum Film.
But don't worry, we're still a movie review show that isn't just a bunch of straight white dudes.
So tune into Maximum Film at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Biz.
And I'm Teresa.
And we're the hosts of One Bad Mother, a podcast about parenting. Parenting is hard, and we have no advice. But we do see you doing it. Honk if you like to do it. Didn't we have a bumper sticker a while back that was like, honk if you did it? That's what it was.
I think it was honk if you're doing it.
Why did we not ever make those? Those
we
are
did make them. I think they're still in the Max Fun store.
Honk, honk, you're doing it.
Thanks, Biz. So are you. Each week, we'll be here to remind you that you're doing a good job.
You can find us on MaximumFun.org. Honk, honk.
Toot, toot.
And we are back. It is time once again for one more thing. Maddy, what's your one more thing?
Okay, so mine is a video game that I forgot to write down the full title of. The video game is titled DC Superhero Girls Teen Power, and it is based on or inspired by a television show, cartoon television show called DC Superhero Girls. I'm guessing you two have never heard of this show in your lives. but I have watched it, and it's very cute. It is kind of like Teen Titans Go, if you two remember Teen Titans being the
what it made me think of,
kind of cooler, grittier cartoon about the Teen Titans, the DC teenaged heroes, and then Teen Titans Go was like the subsequent spin-off that was far more kid-friendly, cutesier animations. Lots of people who thought Teen Titans was really good made fun of Teen Titans Go and were like, I don't understand who this is for. This is a similar idea of what DC Superhero Girls is doing, in the sense that it's like, you know, Harley Quinn's on the show, but it's like the version of Harley Quinn that you could actually show to a 6-year-old and she'd be okay with it, as opposed to, say, the 6-year-old who was in my screening of Birds of Prey and spent all of it crying. Because yeah, that happened. A mother took a very, very little girl to see Birds of Prey, I think, because Harley Quinn is like a character that a little girl looks at and is like, oh, she's so fun. I want to be just like Harley Quinn. But like Harley Quinn is such an R-rated character. And so like DC Superhero Girls, the show, is trying to take these gritty characters like Batgirl, you know, Barbara Gordon, like she has this grim backstory, but like she's on the show and she's like 10 and it's fine. And she just is also a superhero and it's adorable. It's a really cute show. It's really, really low stakes. And the game is that way too. So Dean is actually the person who's been playing it and I've been watching her and that's been really fun because Dina's relatively new to games. I've talked about that many times on this show. And this is like a relatively simple game, but also pretty fun and somewhat complicated for what it is. Like there's a witch time dodge mechanic that's a little Bayonetta-esque that's like kind of fun. You run around the city, you collect stuff. There's this whole social media aspect and some of the dialogue is actually quite funny and cute because it's like, you know, Poison Ivy making fun of you for not being pro-environmentalism on your Instagram and so on. Like it's really cute. So I feel like if anybody's listening and they like something low key and they like either the show or they have a kid who's into the show, this game is pretty good, like surprisingly good, even though I've seen a lot of people on the internet make fun of it.
It's on the Switch, right?
And I think it's just because it's not for the hardcore gamer audience, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it's not for them. It is a game that is just not for the Elden Ring stance on Reddit. And so it feels like a different kind of world, but it's actually really fun and cute. So I recommend it.
Nice. Yeah, that can be nice. Sort of breath of fresh air of like, like different tones.
And also it's not necessarily a different genre, but it's like, oh, this is a game that was made for girls, you know? Like it is just a completely different vibe in terms of its look, tone, and atmosphere overall. And it's kind of cool to play a game like that every now and then and be like, oh yeah, these games also exist. That's neat.
Speaking of games with very different tones, I've been playing an amazing game that I hope you both check out. So I've been playing a game called Overboard that was surprise released last week by Inkle. Inkle is the makers of 80 Days and Heaven's Vault and a few other cool games. Inkle, they make very good text heavy games. And Overboard is awesome. I mentioned, by the way, last week that my one more thing this week was going to be Backbone, which is another kind of narrative heavy game starring the raccoon detective game. But that game actually didn't really gel with me as much as I wanted to, unfortunately. But Overboard very much did. And so Overboard, the concept is you play as this woman who has just murdered her husband by throwing him off of this cruise ship. And it's set in like the 1940s. It's just after like at the climax of World War II. So you're leaving from Britain to go to America on this steamer ship, on this cruise ship, and you must find a way to frame another passenger for the murder and get away with it.
It's the best pitch. I know this game. I have it downloaded. It's just an amazing pitch. It's a great idea for a game. I'm sold, and I haven't even played it.
Not only is it a great idea, the execution is phenomenal. So the way that it works is you have a certain amount of time. You have about 8 hours to accomplish this task before someone on the crew calls everybody together and says, hey, we discovered that your husband is missing, and so let's talk about what we know. And every action you do and every conversation you have takes up real time. And every character in the game is on a schedule. So you can go to different places on the boat and you might see a character there, or you might know that a character is not there, and you might be able to do certain things depending who's there, what items you have, what items you picked up. You eventually, and you can keep replaying it, by the way. The idea is you keep playing it over and over again to see different outcomes, and you have a checklist of like objectives you want to hit. So like you'll want to see all the different endings. So there are some endings where like you kill a bunch of people, and there's some endings where you frame one person. There's some endings where like you make everyone think that it was a suicide, and so on and so on. But what's really, really cool about it is that that it's almost like solving this elaborate puzzle, or like tuning, like putting together a watch where like you have to put the pieces together in this perfect order, and eventually you hit this crescendo of like, oh man, I did it, I pulled it off, this is so cool. Think about like a stealth game where like you're like, okay, I know this guy goes over here, I'm gonna sneak over behind him.
Just like Hitman. I mean, what you're describing is
but like
is
narrative
Hitman.
style. Yeah,
it is. It's Hitman except with dialogue and with framing people, and there's no actual moving.
And like after the hit has happened, and now it's like post Hitman.
But it's all dialogue. It's entirely text based, and the graphics are very rudimentary. This is a game that was made in 5 months during the pandemic. Like Inkle started making it in January and released it in June. But it's incredible. Even like the scope is very small, obviously, but it's still incredible. And so like, you might know, okay, I want to kill this person, but this person is going to be over here, so they'll see me when it happens, unless I do it half hour later. And so I got to fill in this blank for half hour. Oh, this would be a good time to go and talk to this other person and get her out of her room, so I can sneak into her room and plant sleeping pills on her nightstand, so everybody thinks she's crazy. And it's a whole giant, like, amazing contraction, and I love it. It's so good. It's called Overboard. It's on PC, Mac, Switch, and iPhone, and it's the perfect game, not just for like anyone listening to this, but also for people listening to this who like have a friend or family member or spouse who is not into games. Like, this game will be perfect for them, just like 80 Days. Also from Inkle.
80 Days rules.
Overboard is awesome. Go check it out.
Nice.
Kirk, what's your one more thing?
All right, my one more thing is, well, it's a TV show that it also got me playing a video game. But the show that I watched was the new Netflix post-apocalyptic fantasy show Sweet Tooth, which I'm sure most of our listeners are at least aware of, or anybody with Netflix, because they're promoting it, and I think it's doing pretty well. And it has a striking image of a young boy with deer antlers, which is sort of what this show is all about. So the show is really cool. I really liked it. Emily's traveling this past week, and this next week she's like visiting family and stuff, and so it's just me and the dog. So I've had a lot of time to just watch shows. Like I watched Mayor of Easttown. It was great. But I can just be like, I'm going to marathon a show now. It's sort of easier to do that. And I did that with Sweet Tooth. So this is based on a Vertigo comic by Jeff Lemire. Showrunner is Jim Mickle, who I know is very well regarded in the TV world. So it's got some like prestige on it, and people really like this comic, which I've never read. The premise is that it's very close to home in a lot of ways. There's a pandemic that happens that wipes out almost everybody on Earth. And it's sort of a dissolving of the world called the Great Crumble. And it's just this sickness you get. It like causes your pinky to start twitching. That's how you know you've got it. And then you just die really quickly afterward. And a lot of that stuff would be kind of hard to watch just because it's not like a zombie apocalypse or something. It's just people dying of this sickness. And it is really like a much worse version of what actually just happened to us, even though this show started production in 2019. So it feels very real in that way. But the other thing that happens when this virus outbreak happens is that all babies start being born as animal hybrids.
Didn't that happen with COVID?
Yes, it did. So that's another way that it sort of mimics and reflects our reality back to us. Yeah. So that's the sort of fantastical element. And then the main character is this boy named Gus, who is sort of raised by his father in this sort of totally isolated environment out in the woods. And then he has to go out on his own in the premiere, and he meets this sort of gruff former, bad guy who's like become a good guy. And it starts to have a lot of Last of Us energy in some ways. So watching this show, I really liked it. I especially like the first 4 episodes. It gets a little busy in the second half just because they're covering a lot more ground. And that's cool. Like, I like the whole story, and I'm psyched to watch the next season, but it really hits something special in the first few episodes that I hope they kind of find that energy more. So that's my kind of really quick critique of the show. I think it's cool and people will like it. But watching it, I was like, this is really interesting tonally because it's a post-apocalyptic world. There's a lot of horrible stuff. There's a lot of awful people who are like, especially out to get, they're called hybrids, the kids. And they're all kids because it hasn't been long enough for them to be older than like 6 or 7. And, they want to experiment on them or kill them. They think they caused the virus. And there's a lot of like scary people and these militias. And, the guy who he's working with is sort of this bad dude who kills people, but is also like, secretly nice, of course. And the show could go a lot of different ways. And watching it, I kept being like, this is the kind of tone that I actually really want from this kind of story. Like, it looks like The Last of Us, it feels like The Last of Us, but tonally it's different. And it got me back playing The Last of Us 2, because I was like, what do I want to do after watching a couple episodes of this? Well, actually, I kind of want to play some Last of Us. And since they just updated it on PS5 to run at 60 frames per second, I was like, oh, we'll see what that's like. So I like picked up my New Game Plus, started playing through it, and it is so striking, that game, which we've talked about so much. Like, first off, going back and playing it, the gameplay design of that game is like better than anything ever. It's crazy how good like a given encounter with like enemies and stuff is. It's so good. And then I was like, wow, wait, is this game like, maybe I just love this game. And then the tonal stuff kind of catches up with me, and I'm like, but it's such a grinding drag, and like it's so dark, it's so mercilessly dark, and like these things that we complain about.
Are you using this one more thing as an excuse to talk about The Last of Us?
I'm not. I was playing it right after watching this show Sweet Tooth, which is so similar. Like, anyone who has done both of these things is listening now probably thinking something similar, because you watch it and it really feels like The Last of Us, but it has this different energy because there's this kid at the center of it, and he is like really innocent, and he like believes the best in the world, and he's like amazing looking. He has these cool little deer ears. He's such a little sweetie, and he just runs around and he wins everyone over. And the magic of the show, it's not saccharine. It doesn't feel cheesy, but his worldview winds up winning over these super jaded older people who've like seen the world fall and have become Joel. And to watch that after The Last of Us, which is perfectly valid as an artistic statement, that show is the opposite. It's like, Ellie kind of saves Joel, but in the end, really, Joel kind of brings down Ellie and everything. And like it all falls apart. And it's like really, it's just this horrible like entropy of just destruction. To watch a very similar story that just totally moves in the opposite direction in a really artful way was kind of amazing. Like, I was like, I didn't realize how much I wanted to feel this way when watching this kind of a story. And it made me value this show a lot more, and to see it in an interesting way. That, again, it's not to be like, oh, it's so much better than The Last of Us 2. It's not that. It's just these two tones are so different, even though the material is so similar in some ways. And it was just a very, very interesting comparison to be making.
Yeah. This is a good time for an optimistic worldview as opposed to a cynical
especially one. Like an optimistic worldview on like a terrifyingly real seeming pandemic like apocalypse, which is, no small feat to pull that off.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds cool.
It's a cool show. It's on Netflix.
Cool.
I recommend it.
Good stuff. Okay, cool. Well, that is it for this week's episode. E3 is this weekend. We will all be tuning in. I will, I don't know about you guys, I'll be hanging out at least a little bit in our Triple Click Discord to watch along.
I'll definitely be there.
Yeah.
E3. That'll be fun. We will be back next week to talk about everything we saw.
All right. I'll see the two of you next week.
Kirk, Maddy, see you next time.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddy Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Some of the games and products we talked about on this episode may have been sent to us for free for review consideration. You can find a link to our ethics policy in the show notes. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you like our show, we hope you'll consider supporting us by becoming a member at MaximumFun.org/join. Find us on Twitter at TripleClickPod, send email to tripleclick@MaximumFun.org, and find a link to our Discord in the show notes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned. Audience supported.